Eccoci!
Eccoci,
Buonasera, buonasera.
buonasera e benvenuti, benvenuta.
Benvenuto a te, grazie della disponibilità di questa serata con noi, con me.
Grazie a te.
Gai, vogliamo parlare in italiano o in inglese? Per te fa differenza? Italiano va bene, inglese è meglio?
Italiano va benissimo.
Perfetto. Un secondino solo che non so se è collegato il mio
O in
micro, il mio...
inglese, siccome vedo che si connectano, they connect,
co-
a lot of people are connecting, so maybe English is best.
Preferisci? Va benissimo.
Up to you.
Okay, so let's speak English. I think it's better even for my followers, so it's perfect in English. So a little introduction that I will do myself for you, and then I leave you the word to introduce yourself and your path. So I'm a style consultant, Benetta Trifiro. I invited you because it's a long wish that I have since a long time to have someone who speak about watches. I think it's a very, very big universe that I really don't know about much, but I love vintage, I love watches, and I think it's a very fundamental, iconic accessory for men's style and men accessories. So you are known as one of the most interesting characters in the vintage watch world when it comes to personal style and taste. What do you want to say about that and introduce yourself?
Whenever I get, I'm honored to get this kind of compliments, thank God. Thank you, first and foremost.
Just the
But
truth.
whenever I hear these kind of things, I can only reply that I can only be myself and who I am. So what I show is really who I am and
Mm-hmm.
what I love. And I love life first and foremost. And through all its, currents, I like style and the watches. And I like to share all this with whoever, follows along. And just share this passion with the crowd and the public.
I was looking at one of your live where you show your watches, and when you were looking at them, it was like you were having a relationship with them. It was so beautiful. So how did this path started? Like, how did you get into it, and how all had a beginning?
Well, I always had a penchant for nice things growing up in Milano. I was privileged to grow up in a family that appreciated dressing nice and setting the table nice and furnishing the house in a nice way. So I grew up with that flavor for aesthetics and appreciation for those kind of things, that which then translated also in my personal style. And amongst the various currents of personal style, the first and foremost accessory that a man can have would be a watch. So since I was a teen, I always, had the ambition of having a nicer watch, a Rolex, and wearing the watch that of my dreams, etc. And as I got into it, I discovered more brands, more styles, more different shapes and then designs that appeal to me, and I keep on going as my taste evolves. Also, the watches I
Evolve.
appreciate differ, evolve. Yes.
What was your first watch, and like the one who attracted you into this, world and universe?
So the first watch I ever had was a watch that my father gave me. I think I was about 8 years old. It was like a Casio, which with a red dial and a black strap. So I remember that was my first watch. But the
A
first watch,
classic.
classic. It was how to tell time, etc. And my father taught me the concept of time and hours and to be on time, especially. And
That's a good lesson.
yes, that's why I needed the watch to be on time, and my father was trying to teach me that lesson. And then the first watch I wanted as an accessory, as an object of desire was in the early 90s, there was the Swatch craze. And me as a 10 to 12-year-old kid, I was also caught by the bug. And I had a few Swatch Scubas and Chronos. And so did many of my friends and adults. And it was like a passion that many people from small to big shared, the collecting for Swatch watches and colors and straps and all these things that make my business and my collecting interesting today. And after that, the first important watch I got was at 20 years old for my birthday. My father gifted me a Rolex Datejust, and that was my dream to have.
Of course.
He sacrificed a bit to get me that watch, and I still have it to this day. I was just telling a friend here that I gifted it to my wife when we had our first son. Yeah,
lucky wife.
Yes, and lucky man to be married to her. And on the paper, it also has the date of my birth, December 2nd, 2020. So really my 20-year-old gift. And then from there on, slowly, as things evolved, I started buying more and collecting. And from there, it became a passion.
But were you always in this field, or something changed during the years, or like, what was the thing that really got you and was like, I want to do this for, for my life? Yeah, for a living.
Well, I tell you how I started. My family business has always been in the jewelry industry. So from the age of 18 to the age of 28, I was involved in selling precious stones to the trade, to jewelers, manufacturers, designers, etc.
Okay.
From Italy, and then I moved to the States. So I was always involved with jewelry and the jewelry industry. But wasn't really the stones. I loved it, but it wasn't my passion. My real passion at the time was style and suits and tailoring, etc. And having Lino Ieluzzi as one of my
style consultant.
Yes, I wanted to be, like Lino and in the line of business, the Lino, and I wanted to pursue my passion through my business. And I started with custom clothing, which I did very well for 6 years, and then we sold the company, etc. But then that's where I started with the watches at the end. I wanted to do something that I didn't need me physically involved on a day-to-day basis. Because, of course, Lino has been working for many years, but he has to be at the shop.
He has to, yeah.
I wanted to have more time for my family and for myself, etc. So, I don't know, I crazy or not, through prayer, I got the idea of dealing with watches and pursuing this passion that I had on the side. And I met a guy who gave me 10 watches to sell. And at a few appointments of selling suits, I sold 1, 2, 3, 10, 15 watches. And I said, let's go.
So you were still doing tailoring before starting?
And then after selling those 10, 15 watches that I had on consignment at the end of the appointments with my clients, I immersed, full immersion 10 years ago, and I haven't looked back since.
That's a beautiful story. And I think 30 minutes is not enough to speak about anything with you, because I have so many questions. But I'm very, very, very glad that you're here tonight. What do you think? Do you recognize yourself? I think you do, because your path to speak by itself, the importance of style matching with a watch. Like, they are two different lives, but very, very much connected.
Well, the watch you wear tells a lot about your style. If you have, it tells about your individuality, your character, what you want to portray, of course. If someone has a very large and gold watch, of course he wants to portray himself as a person of a certain kind, and success, etc. If someone has a more refined, understated, sophisticated watch, of course he wants to portray that side of himself. So I think the watch for a man is the first extension after his clothing that portrays his individualistic style. What he wants to show the world. Is he a sophisticated man? Did he has a sophisticated watch, or he has the watch that everyone wants or everyone has? There's so many layers to what a watch is.
So on this note, which one is your favorite today?
Today, my heart beats very, very fast for Piaget watches.
Oh, really?
which yes, which I found to be really reflecting my personality. First and foremost, because each one is unique, colorful, and approachable. They're not necessarily the most expensive watches, but they're very tasteful and exciting. Because most of them have a here today. I'm wearing one.
Yeah, let's show us something. I love the green.
Yes, you see, it's about color.
Yeah,
So
it is a
I'm
classic
wearing a
one.
gold watch, so I like something precious. I like something a little more opulent to look at, and I love color.
I had to
And
say you get away well with wearing something so particular because vintage watches are very different from contemporary watches, right?
yes,
You have to have that sense of I think style because vintage watches are a lot of much about design and like are very particular in general about how you wear it and like with everything that you match with it. So what do you think makes a watch prestigious and a luxury to have? Like, what does make a watch luxury? Like, what's important to see on a watch, and uh, even like technicism or
it,
everything. Tell us about
it's
everything to
important
know.
to start from the very clear understanding that today in 2023, nobody needs a watch to tell
That's
time, right?
very true.
So
Very true.
if then you venture to be wearing a watch on the wrist that is not the electronic whatever iWatch, or my wife wears the one that counts the steps and the heartbeat. So if you choose to wear a mechanical timepiece, that means that first and foremost you also appreciate the manufacturing process of these little components that have to be um, handmade or hand assembled by a technician. There is a whole chain of process to build this watch, from the design to the mechanical parts to the assembling, the strap choice. There's so many. So to this, there's
Do,
really, if someone does buy a watch of any range, he has an appreciation for this object that is today is obsolete. So already he appreciates the old way of living, right?
absolutely.
He
Do you wanna?
embraces that lifestyle.
Why do you explain it to us? Do you want to show us like one example, like even the one that you have on, like to understand exactly what makes it, even it doesn't matter, you, as you say, the price range, but as
Let
I'm
me,
not a professional on this department, like I want to understand because I'm so attracted to it.
so
And
let me show you, for example, super classic Patek Philippe from the 1980s, 70s. It's an iconic design. So,
mm-hmm,
of course, it could be just a watch, right?
mm-hmm,
But if you wanna
go
layer it,
deeper.
yeah, it's a Patek Philippe watch. That means it's made in Switzerland by very high grade technicians and people who take their jobs this most seriously ever,
Mm-hmm.
that have been doing this for over 100 years, and don't make millions of pieces. This is just one of few thousands that was made in that particular year, let's say, and maybe one of few thousands that were made ever in this configuration ever. It's not
Mm-hmm.
something that everybody can just go and buy.
It's not mass production.
It's not mass production. All these watches that I deal in particularly are not mass production, and furthermore they're all vintage, so each one takes a life of its own, because maybe someone kept it in the drawer for 50 years, and today we pull it out and it's brand new. Maybe someone loved it to death and wore it every day, and it's coming, with all its scars and lines of the past, and that's also okay. Each watch, vintage watch,
Has a
has a soul of
story.
yeah, has a story. But what makes first also a watch important for you, independent from the price, is the emotional
Attachment.
part, the attachment to the watch. Because many watches tell a story. Many watches were gifted. Many watches were bought at a particular time of your life, at a particular milestone. See, I told you about my watch when I was 20 years old. Then my wife gave me a Rolex when we got engaged. So that's another watch. I bought a watch
Even lucky you,
when I
you said right.
completed a certain, ambition that I had. And so every milestone, a man or a woman can buy a watch to commemorate that. And it tells time, right? So every time you want to see what time is it, you remember those good or happy or emotional or sad, whatever it is. And so it's so much more than just a piece of something.
Mm-hmm.
It's an emotion.
It's not utilitarian. It's just not utilitarian. As Apollo say here, followers say the watch became more than a utilitarian item to be a true accessory beyond distinction. Very true.
Yes, and I embrace that completely. Each watch is an individual of its own for me, and they're all my babies here, and I love them all. And if I have them here for sale, that means I would personally wear them myself.
Of course. So what about the story of this Patek? Is this really the Elise?
This is the archetypal ellipse, yes.
There is another follower who say that this is the Giorgio Armani watch.
Is it? I didn't know.
Me either.
Tasteful people.